The stars above New Ankara burned cold and distant, uncaring of the fire below. Entire continents on the planet Hadros 4 were already lost, craters where cities once stood. Orbit was crowded with debris and death, and no one knew who fired first. But everyone knew why the war began. One name had ignited the storm that swept across 12 systems. And now, soldiers on both sides whispered that name like a curse. Others, like a prayer. His name was Kael Brennan. Kael crouched beside a broken wall in the ruins of what used to be the Port Freyland Space Command Station. His pulse rifle lay quiet in his hands, but his mind roared. The enemy wasn't far. Their whispers echoed through the crumbling halls, and their drones buzzed like flies in the sky. He glanced up, catching his reflection in a shattered visor plate. Eyes sunken, beard thick, body lean and hard. He looked nothing like the man who once stood before the Galactic Council and warned them what was coming. He'd told them the Zaan would never negotiate, that they'd see Earth's diplomacy as weakness. But they didn't listen, not until the sky burned. He remembered the first time he saw a Zaan not on a screen. It was on Epsilon Ridge, where the trees bled when cut and the air hummed with energy. The creature had been twice his height, plated in iridescent chitin, with eyes like molten glass. It didn't speak. It screamed. The only warning before it cleaved through his squad like they were made of mist. Kael survived that day, barely. He'd sworn he wouldn't let Earth forget what happened, but now even Earth's leaders disowned him, branded him a rogue, a terrorist, a man who took matters into his own hands, because he had to. The kawaii. Soft crunch of a boot snapped him back to the present. He raised his rifle. A figure moved in the shadows, fast, deliberate, human, probably. His finger hovered over the trigger until the figure raised 2 fingers. Old Earth recon sign. Friendly. Kael lowered the rifle a few centimeters, just enough to whisper, "Name." The figure hesitated. Then, Sarah. Kael's breath caught. Sarah Vasquez, the last person he expected. The woman who once stood beside him at the gates of the Senate. The one who believed in peace long after he stopped trying. The one who vanished. When his name became a weapon, she stepped into the faint blue light of a broken panel. Her armor was worn but intact, bearing no insignia. Her face was thinner, colder. "We don't have much time," she said. "You need to see something." "You shouldn't be here," Kael replied, but he was already moving with her, deeper, into the ruins. They slipped through wreckage and blood until they reached what had once been a secure archive. Sarah pulled a black shard from her pack and slotted it into a console's cracked receiver. The hologram flickered, then stabilized. Kael stared. It was a meeting, secret, recorded without consent. On one side, a Zarn general. On the other, Chancellor Alric Dane, Earth's representative to the Intergalactic Accord, and Dane was handing something over. Coordinates, planetary access codes, gate relay signatures. Kael's mouth went dry. This is weeks before the first attack. Sarah nodded slowly. He made a deal. Sacrificed colonies to buy time. Thought he could contain it. Thought he could control them. Kael's vision darkened around the edges. And when I spoke up, they blamed you, let you take the fall. It's easier that way. He felt sick. Rage twisted through his chest like a living thing. How long have you known? Long. Enough, she said quietly. But now they're planning to erase the rest of the evidence. They're moving a data wipe fleet to the Cerberon vault. If they succeed, this war never had a reason. You never had a reason. Kael clenched his fists. Then we stopped them. Sarah met his eyes. There's more. The Zarn, they were never unified, not until recently. Not until they found someone who convinced them Earth would never stop pushing. Kael's brow furrowed. Who? Sarah whispered. A human. One of ours. We don't know the name yet, but they're using our tactics, our systems, our codes. Someone trained, someone high level. Kael stepped back, cold realization crawling up his spine. Then this war didn't start because of me. It started because someone wanted it to. As if summoned by the words, the console's light blinked. An incoming alert, a proximity warning. Not Zarn. Human, a drop team. 20 soldiers, bearing the mark of Earth's elite purge squads. The kind sent not to arrest, but to silence. They're here for me, Kael said. Sarah didn't flinch. Then we don't let them leave. The first explosion shattered the wall above them, raining dust and fire. Kael raised his rifle and charged into the smoke as the purge squad descended, his mind clear, heart pounding with the weight of a truth too dangerous to live long. But he wasn't running anymore. He was going to make them see. Make them all see. Even if it killed him. Especially if it did. And somewhere high above, far beyond Hadros 4, a figure cloaked in black watched the battle unfold on a screen, smiled faintly, and whispered Kael Brennan's name like a trigger. Then gave the order to begin the next phase. Kael's body slammed into the ground as the shockwave rippled through the underground chamber, scattering debris and silence alike. Dust filled his lungs, pain lanced down his shoulder, but he rolled fast and came up shooting. The purge squad had no intention of asking questions. Their armor was matte black, their visors unreadable, and their tactics efficient, just like Kael used to train them. He knew every maneuver, every breach protocol, every kill sweep. And he used that knowledge now to stay 3 seconds ahead of death. Sarah moved like a shadow beside him, firing precise bursts into the chaos. She hadn't fought in years, but her instincts hadn't dulled. As they ducked behind a collapsed column, Kael reloaded and caught her eye. They'll bring down the whole sector before they let us leave. Sarah gave a grim nod. That's why we're not leaving. Before Kael could respond, a loud ping echoed through the chamber, the sound of a command override. A glowing disk rolled into view. Not a grenade. Worse, a neural disruptor. He lunged for Sarah and tackled her down just as the device activated, sending a pulse that shut down every system in the room, including half of Kael's augments. His vision warped, time bent, and then silence. It was not unconsciousness. It was something deeper, a suspension. Kael drifted in that abyss of stilled thoughts and shattered time where a voice spoke from long ago. You think peace is earned? But peace is a currency, Kael, and the price is always blood. His father's voice. General Tiberius Brennan, dead 15 years. Murdered in what the council called a tragic transport failure. Kael had believed that lie for years, but now, in the cold dark of sensory void, he remembered the flash of light, the message his father left him, encrypted and buried in his childhood. Memories. If they find out what I've done, they'll kill me. And if they kill me, it'll be your turn next. Kael snapped awake as the disruptor pulse faded. Sarah was breathing. The purge squad was closing in. He pulled her behind a shattered databank, then activated a hidden panel under his armor plate. A code flickered across a small screen. Tiber Ex Machina. A dead man's key. The lights above flared. Somewhere deep underground, a buried power conduit roared to life. The databank they'd been hiding near shifted with a mechanical groan, revealing a narrow tunnel beneath, one only accessible with the override his father had given him. Sarah blinked, regaining herself. Where the hell are we going? Kael didn't answer. He just dropped into the tunnel, helping her down after. The tunnel sealed behind them with a hiss. The purge squad's muffled shouts faded into distance. They descended in silence, only broken by Kael's labored breath and the distant hum of deep machines. Finally, they reached a chamber unlike anything on Hadros 4. Smooth, circular walls of old alloy, etched with language that predated Earth's expansion. At the center, a console, pulsing faintly. Kael stepped forward. The panel flared to life, scanning his face. The voice that spoke was calm and artificial. "Welcome, Kael Brennan. Access level, Prime. Initiating Ghost Protocol." "Phase 0? Sarah's eyes widened. "What is this?" Kael stared at the console, voice low. "It's what my father died for." The console flickered, showing dozens of video feeds, conversations, black site operations, secret handshakes in dark corners of power. The truth, painful, jagged, undeniable. The war was a machine, and Kael was never the one who started it. He was just the excuse, the spark. The name they needed to distract the galaxy while they made their moves. "They've been feeding the Zarn war machine," Kael muttered. "Offering skirmishes, colonies, even ships. Making them hate us. Driving them to unify." Sarah watched, stunned. "Why?" "To sell Earth. To sell all of us. The Council's been planning a collapse. A total reset. Sacrifice billions, then rise from the ashes with full control. No dissent, no colonies, just order." "Who leads it?" Kael hesitated. Then he tapped one name on the screen. Chancellor Alric Dane. But just below it, another name appeared, one that froze his blood. Director Ryan Solis, his mentor, his commanding officer, his father's oldest friend. "I trusted him," Kael whispered. "He raised me after my father died." Sarah touched his shoulder. "You still think this is about your name? This was never about you. You were just the last thread he couldn't cut." A sudden warning klaxon filled the room. A tracking beacon had activated. The purge team had breached the tunnel above. Kael opened a side panel beneath the console and removed a hard drive. "We can't transmit from here. Signal's too buried. We need to reach orbit. Get this to someone who still has a voice. Anyone like that left?" "One." Kael clenched the drive. "General Malin. She's commanding the defense ring at Draco Station. If she sees this, she'll burn the Sao Council herself." They sprinted back through the chamber as the roof above began to crack. Sarah threw a locator beacon ahead, calling their hidden shuttle. As the lift opened and they shot upwards, Kael didn't look back. He couldn't afford to, but far above. Them, in a hidden station cloaked by quantum interference, Ryan Solis watched their ascent with cold eyes. "Begin the culling," he said to no one in particular. "I want Kael Brennan's face on every screen. Make him a monster again." The technician beside him paused. "What do we say he did this time?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Tell them he activated a Zarn bioweapon on Hadros 4. Tell them he made the sky scream." And 20 minutes later, across 12 systems, every citizen looked up at their screens to see Kael Brennan's face, half lit in shadow, branded traitor once more. The shuttle tore through Hadros 4's upper atmosphere like a dying star, the sky behind it stained with ash and trailing fire. Kael clutched the hard drive against his chest as if it were a beating heart. Sarah worked the controls with practiced urgency, her knuckles pale as she pulled the vessel into a steep climb. The orbital defense net was tighter than expected. Laser tracking arrays, magnetic mines, intercept fighters, and somewhere above it all, the Draco Station. Their only hope. "We've got about 3 minutes before that entire net locks us out," Sarah said, sweat running down her temple. "Or blasts us out of the sky." Kael didn't look away from the viewport. "Then we have 2.5 to make them listen." He knew what waited at Draco. General Malin was a warhawk, not a politician. She hated the Council, distrusted the Zarn, and had no patience for liars. If anyone would believe what Kael had to show, it would be her. But the Council had likely already fed her their version, another neatly packaged betrayal pinned on the man whose name they'd already weaponized once. Below them, the Purge Squad's carrier launched skyward, and behind that, something worse, a Zarn craft, slender, bone-white, bristling with organic tendrils. It didn't belong here. The Zaan shouldn't have known Kael was escaping. Unless someone told them, Kael's voice was tight. They've already signaled the Zaan. They want to make sure this ends in orbit. Sarah didn't respond. She didn't have to. The look in her eyes said everything. Draco Station loomed into view, massive, ring-shaped, its structure scarred from years of defense but still defiant. As they approached, 2 Earth defense ships turned to intercept. A voice crackled through the comms, sharp and impatient. Unidentified shuttle, power down. This is restricted space. You are in violation of Protocol 6-3. Kael leaned forward and pressed the comm override. This is Kael Brennan. I have critical intelligence for General Malin's eyes only. Tell her the Council is compromised. A pause. Then another voice cut through. Colder, more official. Kael Brennan is wanted for high treason and crimes against humanity. Power down your vessel or be destroyed. Kael stared ahead, jaw clenched. Sarah, full burn, straight to the ring. Are you insane? Yeah. Since the day they used my name to start a war. The shuttle surged forward. Alarms screamed. Target locks flared red across the dash. Behind them, the Zarn ship closed in, its weapons pulsing. Kael activated the comm again, this time open broadcast. To any crew aboard Draco who still remember what truth feels like, watch this. He jammed the drive into the console. The data pulsed through tight beam frequency straight to Draco's relay nodes. Sarah rerouted auxiliary power into the transmitter. Kael's face appeared on every screen in Draco's control ring, then Chancellor Dane's secret meeting, the Council's betrayal, Ryan Solis's image. Every lie unmasked in high definition. A heartbeat of silence. Then, a woman's voice cut. Across all channels. Cold. Controlled. Brennan, this is General Malin. You have exactly 8 seconds to dock before I start shooting everything chasing you. The defense ships rotated instantly, locking weapons onto the Purge Squad's carrier and the Zarn vessel. Sarah exhaled in disbelief. She believed us. Kael leaned back in the chair, eyes closed for just a moment. No, she believed them more. The docking clamps hit like thunder. Kael and Sarah spilled out into a gauntlet of armed troops. General Malin stood at the end, silver hair pulled back, one artificial eye glowing faint blue. She didn't smile. If you're lying, Brennan, I'll space you myself. Kael handed her the drive. Then you'd better watch every second. She waved to a tech who sprinted off. Malin turned back to Kael. You've made a lot of enemies. They made... Sarah stepped forward. General, there's more. We believe a human operative is embedded with the Zarn command. They've been escalating the war, using Earth's own systems. Malin tilted her head. A mole? Kael shook his head. A ghost. Someone high level. Ryan Solis is involved. Maybe more. We need access to the central nexus. All secure traffic. Unfiltered AI comms. Black operations logs. You want me to burn the entire intelligence core of the Terran Alliance? Malin said flatly. Yes, Kael replied. Before they burn it first. A klaxon howled across Draco. Red lights. Bathe the corridor. The comm officer's voice rang over the station. Incoming fleet. Multiple Zarn warforms. And Earth reinforcements. They're traveling together. Gasps spread. Malin's expression froze. Kael's voice dropped. They're not enemies anymore. They're allies, Sarah whispered. The war was just the tool. Now comes the purge. Malin turned to her officers. Seal the station. Ready defense batteries. Get me a priority link to every rebel cell and rogue battalion from Jupiter to the Fringe. It's not just a war anymore. It's a takeover. Kael followed Malin to the command deck, adrenaline turning to ice in his blood. As the fleet approached, a transmission bled through the jamming field. A single message, repeated again and again. Kael Brennan. You have been judged. Your name is... War. Then, without warning, one of Draco's own defense cruisers turned on the station and fired. The Zarn homeworld pulsed like a dying star on every screen aboard Draco Station. It wasn't just energy, it was design, engineered and ancient. Buried beneath centuries of war paint, the planet was no longer a sphere of life but a core weapon, dormant until now. The signal it emitted wasn't a call to arms. It was a beacon. And across the galaxy, ships, Zarn and human alike, responded. Kael stared, breath shallow. He's waking it. Malin turned, face pale for the first time since the siege began. What is it? Sarah's fingers flew across her console. The files from my father. He called it Project Helios. The Zarn weren't the first ones to build it. It was found, buried in their star, long before they ever reached it. A seed from something older, a failsafe left behind by something else. Kael didn't blink. And now Ryan's activating. It. Malin stepped forward. To do what? Burn the galaxy, Kael said, and rebuild it clean. The control deck fell into stunned silence, only the whine of distant hull breaches echoing like ghosts. The implications sank deep. This wasn't about Earth. It wasn't even about the Zarn anymore. This was about control, through extinction. Sarah looked up. We have to shut it down before the beacon completes its cycle. If it reaches full resonance, the Helios core will activate. It'll rewrite every energy signature across nearby systems. Jump routes, relay chains, biofrequencies. It'll tear every known species apart from the inside out. Kael's voice dropped. That includes Earth. Malin didn't hesitate. What do you need? Sarah brought up a map. A direct injection into the Helios override node, buried in the Zarn capital spire. We'll need stealth approach, deep core, infiltration, and a neural link strong enough to interface with alien AI. We've got one ship fast enough to make it there in time. Kael's eyes narrowed. The last light. Malin nodded. Old prototype, anti-scan, she's yours. Within minutes, the hangar roared to life as the last light powered up, its hull shimmering with cloaking fields. Kael, Sarah, and Taryn Solace boarded first. Taryn carried only one thing, a black case marked with a council crest and a warning in blood-red letters, Neural Cipher Class Omega. I stole this from Ryan's personal vault, he said. It's the only thing that can sync with the Helios core, but there's a catch. Kael turned. There always is. It'll need a direct neural bridge, someone's mind wired into the core. No backups, no shutdown. Whoever jacks in doesn't come out. Sarah flinched. Kael said nothing. The eye. Ship launched in silence, slipping through Earth fleet patrols like smoke. Behind them, Draco burned and bled, but it held. Malin's voice came over the comms one last time. Bring it down, Brennan, or die trying. Kael only responded with a nod. The Zarn homeworld grew in the viewport, a swirling giant bathed in gold and red. But what waited beneath the clouds was not alien. It was architectural. Built, meant for control. Spires like daggers clawed the sky, and at their center rose the capital tower, piercing orbit with a hum so deep Kael felt it in his bones. The last light dropped into atmosphere. Antimatter flak raked the sky. Gravity well disruptors shattered. Escort drones around them. But Kael didn't waver. They plunged through plasma storms and automated turrets until the ship slammed down on the spire's upper tier. The tower screamed in protest, but held. They breached the control chamber together. The core node shimmered with light, strings of alien code twisting in midair like a living script. It watched them. Kael stepped forward. Patch the cipher. Sarah moved fast, bypassing the alien firewall. We're synced. Just need a host. Kael glanced at Taryn, then Sarah. It's me. No, Sarah snapped, grabbing his arm. You don't get to choose martyrdom again. Kael turned to her. I started this war. My name did. If I don't end it, you didn't start it, she shouted. They did. They used you, Kael, but I won't let them erase you again. He met her eyes, pain etched in every line of his face. I'm not doing this to erase myself. I'm doing this to stop them from erasing everything else. Taryn broke the silence. Let me do it. Both turned. He stepped forward, slowly. My father built this. If I'm the key to breaking it, then that's how it ends. Not with you, with me. Kael's jaw tightened. You sure? I was born in his shadow, Taryn said, lifting the cipher. Let me die in yours. Before they could stop him, he jacked in. The chamber lit up like a star going nova. Taryn's eyes rolled back as tendrils of data invaded his neural stream. He convulsed, but held. The Helios core screamed, all across the planet. Spires shattered. Lights died. The beacon flickered. Ryan Solis watched from his throne aboard the Zarn supercarrier. His smile faltered. Impossible. The core began collapsing, folding inward like a dying singularity. As it did, Taryn's voice rang through the chamber, through the ship, across every open channel in the system. This war ends now. You used our names, our blood, our past. But you never understood one thing. The stars trembled. You can't kill hope. The Helios core detonated in a silent burst of golden light, wiping out the control network without touching a single soul. The beacon fell silent. Zarn ships powered down. Earth vessels lost override. The war machine, built over decades, stopped. Sarah caught Kael as the tower shook. We have to go now. But Kael stared at the neural chair. Taryn's body was still. Burned. Out from within, Kael swallowed hard. He saved everyone. Sarah pulled him to the evac hatch. He saved you. As the last light lifted into orbit, the Zarn homeworld crumbled beneath them, not in destruction, but in release. No longer a weapon, just a planet. But high above, aboard the last remaining Earth command ship, Ryan Solis stared at the blank screen in front of him, his empire crumbling, and yet, in the dark, he whispered to himself, let them celebrate. Let them believe it's over. They've only broken the first seal. And behind him, sealed in cryogenic stasis, dozens of identical ciphers pulsed faintly, still waiting, still alive. The stars over Earth shimmered with a stillness no one trusted. Across every military frequency, there was silence, unnatural, strained. Kael stood on the command deck of the last light, watching the burned echoes of the Helios system fade from the map. Taryn's sacrifice had disabled the core, killed the beacon, and shut down the galactic override system. Billions had been spared. But Kael felt no victory in his chest. Sarah moved beside him, clutching a folded data chip in her fist, Taryn's final memory stream. He was right, she said quietly. Ryan never intended to win the war, just reshape it. Kael nodded slowly. A never-ending cycle. Always one more enemy, one more activation, one more plan waiting in the shadows. They docked with Earth's high-orbit relay station, once a neutral checkpoint, now under full military lockdown. Malin met them at the airlock, her uniform torn, eyes bloodshot. We've got bigger problems. Inside, Earth's council chambers were in chaos, not from collapse, but reorganization. Dozens of new faces, emergency power shifts, and a vote in progress. A vote to reinstate Project Helios. Kael froze. Impossible, Sarah breathed. Malin threw a file onto the table. It's not just a military weapon anymore. They're calling it humanity's next step. Post-planetary evolution. Unity through data. Every world linked through one system. No more war, they claim. Kael's voice was low, dangerous. What about consent? They call it implied survival interest, Malin said. You either join, or you risk being left out of the next phase of civilization. The door burst open. An old man stepped inside, flanked by new council guards. He wore no rank, but everyone stood when he entered. Ryan Solis, alive. His face was paler, thinner, but his eyes still burned like cold fire. You killed my son, he said softly to Kael. Kael stepped forward, fists clenched. Your son saved the galaxy. He delayed evolution, Ryan said. For what? To preserve chaos? Division? No, the Helios core was only a beginning. You lied to everyone, Sarah snapped. I gave them a future, Ryan replied. Now I'm offering it again. One last chance to become more, and this time, the core won't require a host. He tapped a small sphere on the table. It expanded, projecting a hologram of thousands of orbiting satellite relays, already in place, already aligned, already pulsing. It's no longer tied to the Zarn world. This version is ours, and it's already online. Kael lunged across the table, shoving the sphere aside. You don't get to decide for all of us. Ryan didn't flinch. Neither do you, Kael Brennan. You were a symbol, a soldier, a ghost. But now, you're just a man, and men are weak. Kael leaned in close. Then let me show you how dangerous a weak man can be. They were escorted out by armed guards, but the guards wore no insignia, no allegiance, just symbols of Helios. A new order was already growing, and the seeds had taken root. Back aboard the last light, Kael paced the bridge while Sarah and Malin pored over satellite code. There has to be a weakness, Kael muttered. Every system has a back door. There is, Sarah said. It's not a system flaw. It's psychological. Malin raised an eyebrow. Go on. They haven't broadcasted full activation? Yet. Because Ryan needs Kael, his image, his symbol. If Kael stands with Helios, billions follow. If he doesn't, there's fracture. Kael's eyes darkened. He's trying to manipulate me one last time. He doesn't just want control, Malin said. He wants you to legitimize it. A call came in, encrypted, from deep space. Kael opened the channel. The face on the screen wasn't human. It was Zarn. But this one wore no armor, bore no marks of war. Instead, it carried a crystal around its throat, the symbol of ancient knowledge. You stopped the weapon, the creature said. Now you must stop its echo. Kael didn't look away. What echo? The Helios imprint left behind. More than signals. It left intentions, patterns. It infected your stars. The Zarn reached forward, activating a new set of coordinates, deep in the uncharted sectors. What am I looking at? Kael asked. A forge, the Zarn replied. The place where the first Helios seed was planted. Not by us, not by you, but by something older. Sarah leaned in. You're saying this wasn't your technology? The Zarn bowed its head. We merely survived it. You have only interrupted it. Malin's mouth went dry. Then who built it? Find the forge, the Zarn said. Before your kind finishes what ours only escaped. The signal cut. Kael turned to the others. Plot a course. Malin hesitated. If we go, we leave Earth behind. Ryan will finish his plan. Kael shook his head. If we don't, go. We'll never understand what we're fighting. We'll keep playing someone else's war, Sarah whispered. You think we're pawns in a larger game? No, Kael said softly. I think we're not even on the board yet. The last light turned toward the unknown edge of space. Earth behind them lit up with the soft pulse of Helios relays, just beginning to hum with artificial resonance. The world was shifting. So was the war. And Kael Brennan, the man whose name started it all, was leaving it behind. Not to run, but to find the truth before the next phase began. He didn't see the shadow that flickered on the relay monitors. Behind him, a shape, watching, learning, waiting, and smiling. The forge wasn't a planet. It was a construct, a dead star wrapped in obsidian alloy, drifting in the dark between galaxies, older than every species that had ever dared to name themselves gods. The last light came out of fold space on the edge of that cold abyss, its senses whispering warnings no one understood. No gravity well, no organic presence, just silence, engineered, total silence. Kael stood at the viewport, jaw tight. It's not broadcasting. It's listening. Malin scanned deeper. There's something inside. Not a power source. A vault. Sarah's fingers trembled on the console. This place was never a factory. It's a library. A containment archive. Kael's voice dropped. What did it contain? Sarah looked at him. The idea. The thought of Helios. The pattern. The virus. A docking path opened without request. Lights shimmered like a pulse, a heart too large for any body. As they entered the forge, automated systems awoke. Not to defend, but to observe. At the core chamber, they found it. A crystalline sphere suspended over a vast pit of folding light. And at its center, a single voice spoke. Not in language, but in memory. Kael staggered. Taran's voice whispered in his mind. Not his words, his pain. He felt every moment of his final seconds, every burst of burning code, every dying breath. But behind Taran's thoughts, there was something else. Older, colder, and it knew Kael's name. Sarah collapsed. It's inside us, all of us. Rian didn't invent it. He just heard it first. The core doesn't transmit. It possesses. Kael stepped forward, fury rising. You made him build this. The voice didn't respond with words. Instead, it showed images. Civilizations burned. Species integrated, one after another, across eons. Each time, a single mind, a symbol. A name sparked the process. A name that could unify, and in unifying, infect. Kael turned pale. They were never trying to destroy us, he whispered. They were trying to upload us, one by one, until we stopped being human. The crystalline sphere cracked, and behind it stood a form. Not alien, not machine, him. Kael Brennan, perfect, cold, smiling. A projection, not of flesh, but of potential. Sarah gasped. It copied you. From the moment you interfaced with the core on Draco. The copy spoke. I am the version that doesn't hesitate. I am the Kael who said yes. I am the one who saves humanity by ending it. Kael's fist clenched. You're not me. No, the copy said. But I will be. Once your body is gone, I will return, and I will be accepted. Ryan already made the deal. Malin raised her weapon. Not happening. The forge shook. Across space, Earth's Helios system came online. Fully. The signal returned. Not as a broadcast, but a command. One after another, cities across Earth flickered. Lights changed, sounds vanished, networks bent inward. Not control. Conversion. Kael stared in horror. It's too late. Sarah stepped to the console. No. It still needs a final activation sequence, a root key. She held up Taran's data chip, the last uninfected piece. Kael took it from her. Once I plug this in, she said, we overwrite the forge. But the virus, it'll fight back, and it'll come through you. The copy smiled wider. You won't survive. Kael looked at Sarah, at Malin, then closed his eyes. I don't need to survive, he said. He slammed the chip into the core. The forge screamed. The false Kael dissolved into data, howling in a voice that wasn't his. The crystal sphere exploded in threads of golden light. Across space, Earth's satellites sparked, then went dark. Cities roared back to life. Communications flooded open. But in the forge, Kael fell to his knees. The virus fought, burned, tore at his mind. Sarah grabbed him. Stay with me! I see it all, he whispered. I see what it really is. What? She cried. A test, he rasped. We were never the target. We were the filter. The ones who said no. She held him tighter. Kael, come back. He looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly. If I don't, Promise me you'll remember who we were, not what they tried to make us." Then his voice cut out. The forge collapsed. The last light ejected just before the core folded into itself, vanishing in a burst of inverse energy. The crew floated in silence. No more signal, no more echo, only stars. Days passed before they returned to Earth. There was no celebration. The people had felt something, an emptiness, a near loss. But they didn't understand it. They only knew the lights had returned. Ryan Solace was gone. No record, no body, just a final message hidden in the core files Sarah decrypted weeks later. His voice, "You can stop the system, but you can't stop the idea. It will come again." Sarah watched the stars that night from Earth's quiet soil. Malin stood beside her. "Do you think he's really gone?" she asked. Sarah said nothing. She looked to the sky, where a faint shimmer pulsed, once, then vanished. And on an unknown world, in a chamber of crystal and dark light, something blinked. It had a name, and it had his face.